everyone. This is Bianca Edwards with Sacred Apothecary, and I am being joined today by Michael Matthews and Juan Goodwin. Today, we're going to sink into a little bit about what it's like to be Black men in this world, what it's like to be men who are also girl dads. I do want to start by opening and sharing with you all that this is a conversation where we're going to sink into some truths. And so there is going to be a content warning. We flow with whatever shows up in the show today, but we will be talking about possible domestic violence. We will be talking about what it's like being a Black man in this world and some of the weight and the challenges and the struggles and the joys and the beauty that exists in those spaces. And so, as we share this content warning and as we sink in, we just want to welcome you, invite you to be present with us, invite you to hold space with us, to be curious, and have this conversation with us. So, Juan and Mike, if you two could each take a second and introduce yourself, whatever you'd love to share in this space.
So my name is Juan Goodwin, right? And the reason I say yes is because I like to just have authentic and transparent conversations. I usually have these like in the safety of my own home or through group text with my friends, but I feel like it's time to pull the mask off and have those conversations outside of yourself. So that's why I said yeah. And I look forward to it.
um, Michael Matthews. Um, and I think the same kind of echoing Juan's sentiment. You kind of have these conversations in your head. He and I have had these conversations when we talk, but to kind of have a space where we can kind of share our thought process and find out kind of who else out there thinks the way, experiences the way we do. It's almost therapeutic to realize that you're not alone. Kind of like finding other Avengers. So, uh, brothers out there, we understand kind of what you're going through, how you're going through it. So hopefully, shedding some light will definitely help you get through today.
And so we'll open up with the first question. You both are girl dads. What does that mean to each of you? And really, kind of in here, it's like, what changed when you had girls? I know I shared with both of you that my dad had two girls, and that totally went from like, oh, I know what I'm doing in life to what is life trying to tell me right now? So let's throw it to both of you. What has that been like?
A comedy show. Because everything you thought was going to happen or everything you may have thought you had figured out, you just take it and throw it upside down and let it shatter. And the best way to get through it is kind of laugh and be like, okay, that was another got you moment. So the best way I'll put it is a humbling comedy show.
Why a comedy
Yeah.
show?
Well, you said why a comedy show?
Why a comedy show? Yeah.
Because some of the stuff that happened, you gotta laugh to keep from going crazy. Um, Growing up as a athletic kid outside, I never played with none of my cousins' Barbie dolls. I never had to be gentle with anything. So now I'm responsible for a human being that cries, poops, want their hair done, tea parties. So everything that you never learned about, you just gotta laugh through the process. Then you look forward to doing it again next week. So that's just like a comedy show. See y'all here next week. I'm here all weekend type of thing. So that's the way I look at it.
um, I think it's a immediate kind of a shock. Like you kind of know throughout the pregnancy, okay, yeah, it's gonna be a girl, but kind of once um, the first two, like once they were born, like all of a sudden, all these things that have happened throughout your entire life as a male, like with girls, you just start automatically replaying it, like from the dad perspective instead of the boy perspective. So the dad is, oh, wait a minute, okay, hold on, and then you start to immediately begin to, okay, I'm gonna teach you this, I'm gonna teach you this, we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna talk about that, and then they come and they're like, nah, I'm good, like we're gonna talk about something completely different. So truly like getting to know them Oftentimes, like when we're growing up, we don't pay attention to like girl personality, kind of things that women have to go through just from elementary through childhood. Like we're going through our own stuff, but when you have the girl, you immediately think differently. So like we were talking about earlier, like all my friends that have had a son first, I won't say you become macho, but it's like, yeah, that's my boy. Once you had a girl first, I'm protecting my girl from, yeah, that's your boy. So it's an immediate. Um, you want to make sure that she's aware of her surroundings all the time, but then you have to get to know a completely different side of people. I've been extremely mad, and then they'll just walk up and give me a hug. And I think for me, it taught me how to love women in a completely different way because they're my daughters.
Mhm.
So looking at it in a completely different way and kind of understanding that was the biggest change.
And so you both
Mm.
have started to bring it up, but what, when you had girls, and you kind of talked about this already around like, okay, it's about to be a comedy show and I'm about to get paid back. But what other conversations have you had with yourself around what it's like to be who you are now and because of your girls?
Um. Okay, so if I'm going back to saying, if Mike, don't let your daughter date the guy Juan was 16 to 24, right? But it wasn't till recently when I had to look that person in the face and start to understand why I was that way. I was running from stuff like it was almost let me get them before they get me type of mentality, right? So protecting yourself, and to answer your question, like what did I learn? I want to create a healthy environment like for my kids, the trauma and the toxic stuff growing up as a kid, you never want your kids to deal with that, even though they take over your whole interview, right? But you just try to make sure that they don't have to relive your traumas, right, Lena? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
try to make sure the environment is not as toxic as what you grew up in, if that makes any sense.
And then we haven't gotten to it, but it's kind of like you're doing this all on your own. So like my dad died when I was 11. My mom left my dad when I was 5. So like I've literally told Destiny, I have no idea what I'm doing after you turn 12. Because like I never had a dad that was there. So help me help you. You kind of go in your mind and create this scenario of what you think it'd be like, and then they work with you to make it whatever it is that works for the two of you. So you can't parent them all the same, but the relationship that I have with Destiny is just as strong as Yasmin and as Michael, but they're all different because they're all different people. So I think truly stepping into that causes you to consistently evaluate, you know, did I mean to say it in the tone that I did? Because it can be perceived a certain way. Am I being as supportive? I mean, even down to the specific, am I spending the same amount of money? So did you ask me to do something and I said no? They asked me to do something and I said yeah. Like, how's the equity go between all?
Is there space for black dads to be vulnerable?
No,
Mm.
I mean, like I started off saying, you talk to your homeboys sometimes, but they don't want to hear it all the time. They want to know that you watch Kyrie go for 50 yesterday, and every once in a while you can sprinkle in like, man, life is kicking my butt. But then you have to make sure you don't come off as, do I need to send the authorities and put him on like watch for 24 hours type of thing. So it's a fine line. It's a balancing act. But to answer your question, I don't really think so because
Yeah, and I
you can
think
tell
it's.
your
I'm sorry.
spouse like, and they were like, "All right, dog. So what you gonna do about it?" Like, I don't know. Like, I was just telling you what I was thinking today, and then okay, this dude's soft. Like, you gotta find a balance of being vulnerable as a all right as a man. You gotta put all this in the blender. Be a guy that'll take a bullet, put a bullet in somebody's head, wear a tutu, play football, make $1 million, and say, I love you, kumbaya. Like, how do you make that in one person? Because at any moment you got to take this hat off to do that, and then put that hat back on, and wear two hats, and it look crazy. But in your head, you like, this is the only way I can get this accomplished if I have on a Scully and a baseball hat. So no, that was a long way of saying not really.
Yeah, and I think it's so many things that you have to check to be similar in order for the other person to understand. So yeah, you can have some conversations with guys that have kids, but they may not be married. And then you can have a conversation with guys that are married and have kids, but technically they may not be happily married. So then that creates a whole different. And then there's so many things that you kind of have to go through the check box to say, yes, we think alike. Okay, now that we think alike, we can support each other in these conversations. And I think to Juan's point, putting that out publicly, like it depends on where you at, but you absolutely become a target. Um, and it's not acceptable. And like a grand scheme to be publicly like vulnerable. Um, because it's not anything that as peers is looked upon favorably. But it's not a bad thing. Like you shouldn't be punished for, like I said, being husband, father, and son. Um, but it's difficult to have that balance, and even for you as a black male or as a male to come to that own understanding yourself, where you feel comfortable being that way. And it takes some time. So like even my wife and I be 25 years next year, um, and still, woohoo, um, but still kind of getting to a point where you realize, all right, it was year 12 before I did this. There are even sometimes where like I don't want to cry in front of her, knowing that it's okay. But like you're having a bad day, she's like, "How's it going?" And you just say nothing. Like she knows there's something wrong, but to be able to truly open up and kind of do that over a period of time, like to be able to have an outlet to where you can do it. And we find a number of things. So sports, um, but I think that's where you get to some of the outlets for black males is that they're trying to find what that outlet is for them to get that stress that they have to deal with. And it's only so much that you can deal with internally, but then now you got all this external stuff and things that are worried about, when your son or when your daughter gets in a car and goes somewhere. It's automatically the thoughts of kind of what potentially could happen. And adding that to it, you're always conscious and kind of focused on what the outside perception is.
I know when we first talked about this episode and the possibility of it, we talked about even what does it mean to be vulnerable with the person you're with, right? Like, what does that mean? And so
Hmm.
I think I shared with both of you, like, my husband and I are still trying to figure it out. I think all couples, like, we have sweet spots. We have really, really sweet spots. And then we have spots where I even know, like, I know the baggage I come with. I'm very clear on it. I'm very aware of it. Like, I can be like, look, I know A, B, C. I can hold space for those all day. I know D, E, and F is gonna have me mad and pissed off, and you're not gonna talk to me. I'm not even gonna want to be with myself. And then like we have a whole other like list of things. And so even when we were talking about being vulnerable, like even being vulnerable in decision making, and Juan, you brought up something really important around you were sharing your experience with your dad when he was in the hospital. Do you mind stepping into that again? And
Oh yeah, of course. It was so back to having to be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman for your kids at a tea party on. So last year, 2020, the world has stopped. Like it was like May, I don't mean March 19th. We'll just throw a date out there. But that same day, my dad was on heart attack number 3 in 36 hours, so to speak, right? So he had just they had just came in, took the machine off to see like how his heart was gonna respond after they've had him on ice for 48 hours to see, whatever, preserve his organs. So they took him off and then he flatlined again. And then the surgeon, they kicked me out the room. It was like something off one of those doctor shows on ABC or whatever. So I'm in the lobby and the doctor come out like, "Hey, we're gonna do everything we can do to try to save your dad." And in my head, like, "Well, why you out here talking to me? Shouldn't you be in there like pumping on his chest?" But at the same time, my daughter calls like, "Hey, dad, they just shut the school down for 2 weeks, and we don't know what's about to happen. But I'm on my way home." And I usually pick my daughter up from school every day, but since my dad was in the hospital, my aunt went and picked up my daughter, so that's why I wasn't there. So she was like, "What's going on?" So at that moment, I had to make a decision to, like, in my mind, go out in the apocalypse with my family, because at that moment we didn't know what the world was going to be in the next 2 hours, so to speak, because COVID was starting to shut down. Or do I leave my dad, my superhero, my best friend? I don't know if I'm gonna see him again, because if I leave the hospital, they're not letting any visitors come back in. So at that moment, I had to make a decision and say, I don't know what I'm about to do. That was the decision I made. I really don't know what I'm about to do. Can somebody please make a decision for me? And as a man, that doesn't show like you got everything under control when you like, I don't know what I'm about to do. And then my wife was like, it'll be fine. Just stay with your dad. But Mike, in my mind, what type of man am I leaving my wife outside with the Hunger Games? I don't know who finna kick in the door, and my daughters need me. But then it's like, man, I got to make these decisions for my dad. So my wife ended up bringing me clothes to the hospital, so she made a decision for me. So it was weird. Like I ended up just being vulnerable. Like I really don't know what to do. Help me. And she looked. I mean, she could hear it in my voice that I didn't want to leave, but I wanted to be with them at the same time. So that was like the toughest 47 minutes of my life. Like deciding what I'm supposed to do, and I didn't have the answer. And I still feel bad for not coming home, being with my family. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we were going to sink into it too a little bit more, and this is for both of you really, um, and it's kind of that question when we talk about being vulnerable, often with, especially just as men in general. And I remember hearing this growing up. Like, I don't want to be soft. I ain't about to be soft. You're not gonna have me being soft. I'm not gonna act soft. And then both of you have shared this already around like, and then I had girls, and I had to have a tea party and wear tutus and all that kind of stuff. Um, what are some of the choices you've had to make to become the father that you are, and what does it mean for
Stay at
you?
home.
Ooh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, stay at home. So, or say, no, I'm not gonna go. So like, there's this constant request of, hey man, you gonna come out and do guy things, and then your response is thought, okay, well, yeah, that could be, but as a balance, what am I giving up by going to hang out? So I can absolutely meet you at BW3s and watch the Super Bowl. That would be cool. Drink beers, hang out with 30 guys. It's cool. Every Sunday, going over watching the Browns game, like from early in the morning to do this. But then you spend so much time at work. Activities happen on Saturday. Sunday is the time where you can actually sleep in, eat breakfast, and just kind of hang out and be with the family. So understanding that that's something that I chose to do and not feel guilty about telling your friends that you grew up with that, nah, man, I'm gonna be at home, and whatever ridicule can come with it, that absolutely is a choice.
In the frame and outside of the frame of that experience you shared with your dad, what are some of the choices that you've had to make in order to become the dad that you are? And then, even, what are some of the things you still sink into and sit through?
Yeah. So it's gonna sound like I'm punting the ball or whatever. Yes, Lena. It hurt when we kiss it. Okay. Does it feel better? Okay. Go show love.
That's a choice right there.
All right. So look, one of my homeboys just had a kid like 4 days ago, right? But throughout the whole process, he's texting me like every month, like, man, how do you do this? How do you do that? And this is my answer to your question, but it was the answer that I gave him. There is no handbook. It was just all instincts. Like
Yep.
I don't really know. Like it, do what feels good, right? So sacrifices and all that. The running joke with a lot of my homeboys is, the Kanye line when she leave your blank, she gonna leave with half, right? But I take a step further. It's like 75%. Do I want to give up 75% of what I work for 17 minutes outside on the weekend, right? Because that's what it's gonna cost me to have to pick up my kids on the weekend, have to split holidays, and have drop off spots with where I can pick them up. So I don't want none of that, and it's just all instincts. Like, come on, dog. I like sleeping without my phone having to be hid under the bathroom. Sorry guys if I'm giving up your hiding space. The bathroom. You know what I'm saying? So it's just instincts, man. Just doing what feel right and knowing what it was like to have to go over my dad's house on the weekends because I don't ever remember my parents being together. My mom and dad are best friends to this day right now, but I don't have the hey, my daughter saying, "Where's mom?" and I'm saying upstairs in her office working. Like I've never had that, so my instincts tell me, "All right, dummy, do you want to recreate what you went through?" So that's what I'm saying.
Mm.
And I think even to that, being the choice of not being my dad. So like the earliest memory that I have is my dad and my mom kind of having a domestic violence episode, and I had to be like three. I mean, because I think we moved from the house that I'm thinking of when I was three, so I don't recall any boxes.
Mhm.
So I can remember in diapers and hearing the pans drop and coming in, and all the comment was like, "Michael's looking," and kind of seeing his face looking and understanding the pain that I had for my mom, but then understanding at the age of 5, being in the car like, "Mommy, where are we going? We leaving."
Mhm.
Okay, like, well, where's the clothes? You got what you need right now. And spending a year at my aunt's house, kind of sporadically seeing my dad every now and then to understand that you're not going to see him. You see him on weekends. But then it's like quickly transitioning to him being in his deathbed and sneaking up talking to him. And he was like, every woman is somebody's mother. Treat them the way that you would want somebody to treat your mom and learn from my mistakes. So being conscious about not being that person was a choice to be there so that way my kids, like Juan said, like you have a dad at home. Like they don't know any other thing except for mommy and daddy either being together at some point in time they're gonna come back even if dad's out of town, mom's way at work. Like their household is my mom and my dad. I can always ask both. And then one of the last things I know we had talked about was kind of the conversations that I do have with Michael, um, because like we talked about kind of all this girl dad, but I am the father of a black male. I am now, well, I'm 6'1". He is quickly approaching 6'3". And so at 15, he'll be 16 on Saturday as a 6'3", 160-pound black male. He has a different perception in the world than he did when he was this little cute 4-foot kid that was running around where he said, "Daddy, I'm brown." Yeah, you are. Um, and like I shared, like we grew up in. They've always been in communities where they've been a single digit percent of the population as blacks. So I think where we live now, there may be 3 or 4% black people in the community, and he's one of the tallest. Um, but kind of getting him to kind of understand all these different social issues and how he interacts and what he needs to do, that has been an absolute conscious choice that all of us have been supportive of, making sure that when he says he goes to the park, that he comes home unhurt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's
I'll,
definitely the focus.
just because you said this, we didn't talk about asking this question. Um, but what do you both feel? And you can say pass or that question's not for me. I don't feel like I don't have the bandwidth. Whatever it is, I'll honor it. But what do you think, or what do you both need in order to feel safe? like when we're talking about kids coming home, um, we all know what's happening right now. We all know that there has been an increased rate of police murders of black families, black men, black women, um, black people. Period. And so, what are some of the things that you both do to keep yourself safe? And what are some of the things that you need,
Mm.
maybe that you haven't implemented yet, or that you still are in curiosity about around what you need to be safe?
So I can
The
go
fact
ahead.
that I have to answer this question is very depressing, right? Because I shouldn't have to ask for like decency and equal treatment and seeing me as a individual and not a monster. So until those people want to have they, you, I shouldn't have to give you the answer to why I need this person's foot off my neck. Ask them. That's all I got to say about it. It ain't my job to tell you that you tripping. You know that. So tell the person with their foot on my neck to answer that question. Cause I don't got the answer for you. Cause I'm trying to fight them. And I don't make me come up with the peace treaty. Cause I ain't start this fight.
Mm, say that a couple times.
Um, yeah, I think I'm in that kind of middle part. So it's like you know what you need, but if you have it, then you become the focus of kind of the attention. So like in your mind, you're like, give me the biggest gun, give me the fastest thing I can grab, and then I'll be ready when y'all come knocking on my door. But then you understand that the rules aren't the same. So if I do have the gun and the fastest way to get it, that's what actually makes me the target. So then it's, well, how do you arm that to protect yourself? And as you try and arm yourself with education, and then there's no conversation for you to educate the other person over who you are. It's a physical confrontation where there's no words, or you weren't given the opportunity for even to exchange words. Um, so then it's, well, do I not put myself in these type of situations, and those situations find you? So it begins to be this constant evolving of, I know what I think I need. The situation changes. And then ultimately, what you need is exactly, for those that are watching, exactly what you see in the screen. Um, it's literally just to kind of realize that you can put yourself in spaces where they don't care. Like they smile, I won't say you're my toy, but like, daddy here, come do this. And then that ultimately gets you off of whatever it is. As much as kind of the thoughts are around kind of what's going on with the George Floyd case, like, it's gotten to a point, in order to get through it, I can't watch it, because when you watch it, you start to relive, that could be me, that could be Michael, but this is my everyday life. And then you hear the spin from media. So it's either we agree, and there's that part of it to where, okay, well, do you really? Because you may not know every day and kind of what we have to go through. Or then there's the disagree part, where you come up with so much of a reason why those things should happen. Um, and then you get caught. So, like, I find myself kind of in a conundrum with the whole conversation around what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Most of the times, two extremes: you need a gun and you need a hug.
Mm,
Um, and that's kind of weird, but that's kind of where it is. Um, and you need some outside inspiration, just from things that you don't really know. Like, as much as you can be conscious and pay attention to kind of what's happening around you, there's always clues. So, like, even as you mentioned today, like being centered and kind of understanding, be present in the moment, that literally connected something for this whole week of trying to figure out kind of where I was and how I was moving forward in my life. But being present as being husband, father, and son is enough. Um, and then we'll be good as a family. But that's literally just paying attention to your environment, paying attention to what's around you.
I am sitting in deep appreciation for both of your answers. because one, I feel like that's what people have been saying for millennia. Like, I'm not the one with the problem. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not the one with the problem. I'm not the one who needs to try and find resources for other people's toxicity and for their inability to understand the depth of pain that they're causing and the trauma that they're causing, because it's intentional, right? So there's those pieces. And then Michael, I love this piece too around just honoring all the things that show up. And I feel you, between like, hey, where's the closest gun and where's the closest hug? Both of those are things that I need. Um,
Yep.
and just, I don't know. I think I'm deeply curious right now because I've been on my own journey around what safety looks like. What does that mean for my family? What does that mean for people that I love? And safety is a question of like, first of all, like, what are the places that I'm not feeling safe? But also, what are the places that I'm owning? Like, just as these are my spaces, regardless of who shows up, what's going on, like, this is who I am. And so I'm just sitting in deep gratitude for both of your answers and just really being thankful that your children have fathers like both of you who are brave enough to be curious and say, I don't know, because I think those are big pieces of it. I think, my dad was also one of those dads who was like, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. It's the
Hmm.
parents that are like, I have all the answers that I worry most for them and their children because you probably don't. You probably,
Absolutely not.
the answers you have may not be for this puzzle that we're on right now. So, uh,
Not at all.
I'm deeply appreciative. And with that, is there anything else either of you feel needs to be said or shared or processed through?
Yeah, I do. It's okay. Like, it's okay. I think I heard like it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, it's okay to say that you don't know to those that literally you created. So, like, if you got guys that got kids, um, regardless of what situation may be with baby mom, like, you always want to make sure that you cherish the fact that you created another life, and that life literally is something that you need to nourish, you need to support, and you need to make a commitment to get to know. And that doesn't mean, like you said, that you know everything, but simply saying, I'm here for you just to listen. Um, and whatever you can, just be consciously about that's how you live your life, that you want to support whoever that is, wife, girlfriend, however you describe your significant others, um, and your kids, because it makes an absolute difference.
So this has been such a rich and deep conversation, and we've really just started scratching more of the surface. And so I'm again sitting in gratitude for both of you, sitting in joy at being able to watch you, be your parent, be your parental selves, and just men that I am grateful to be in relationship with. And so thank you to any and all of our wonderful guests who have joined us. So next month we'll continue to go deeper and have another conversation. Again, the topic being our stories, our healing, where we hope to discuss some of the experiences that have made us powerful. And some of our other topics that are coming up will be why did I stay, knowing our worth, and taking ownership. So again, thank you all for your time, for your energy. Thank you for viewing this, and have a beautiful rest of your day.